I'm now recording. Okay, so we're now recording, so we haven't missed anything. Okay, Mel Smoke, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that Jim Cameron isn't on the call today. He's your neighbor in Venice, and usually is on the calls, but I think he's sort of in transit between New Jersey and Venice. But have you heard from him? He said he was going to give you a call.
Yes, actually, we had a really nice conversation yesterday, and we'll probably be getting together in the next couple of days to meet in person.
Oh, great. Okay, he's a terrific guy, and he's been talking with us, and we've actually met. We met in Los Angeles at the PCI conference, not this year, but the year before. And you'll enjoy him, and he has a lot of experience, not just with prostate cancer, but unfortunately he's had a couple of other issues that he's had to resolve, and he'll be a very nice local contact for you. We've got a couple of other guys that are sort of down your area that are less frequent, but you know, I know that you came on to Inspire because you were looking to try and create a group for men with more advanced cancer, prostate cancer, locally. One of the reasons we run this group is because sometimes it's hard to get a core of people locally, but we provide a core of men every week to talk about issues, advanced issues, as you'll hear. So if you're comfortable doing so, perhaps you would give the guys a quick idea as to your age, your background with this disease, where you are, and what's causing you concern right now, and any questions you might have for us, and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, I'm 74 years old, and so January of last year, I never had any medical issues at all. Literally was healthy all my life. I had sciatica, I fell, I broke a hip, and when they took x-rays post-surgery, they discovered some spots on my spine, and lo and behold, my PSA had jumped from 4 to 8 to 32 within a matter of about 4 months. And then I was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer that had metastasized to my spine. I believe it's 5 of my spinal, vertebrae are involved. My pelvis, my right hip, and my left shoulder. So those are the areas that are involved. I underwent chemo last year, starting in June, finished up in September. And I found out last Wednesday that the cancer returned. And one of the reasons I came on to Inspire, in addition to trying and to be able to talk with men of this, in a similar situation or appreciation, is that most of the men I met here were at the other end, where they were just, they might have had a PSA of 2 or 3 and beginning to look at options and be aware of where their prostate cancer will lead. So my reason for coming on was the next drug that has been prescribed, which is Zytiga and prednisone, to try and gain some experience, since the only thing I knew about was chemo. I'm also single and went through the chemo pretty much on my own last time, so wondering what it might be like, so that if I do need to make any arrangements, I've got some heads up before becoming involved. But that's an overview.
Where are you being treated, Mel?
I'm being treated in Venice at Florida Cancer Specialists, and I also, after my meetings there, I also go up to Moffitt, where I have a consult up there, just to kind of see that everybody's on the same page, So I'll be going up there on the 14th of February.
And who are you seeing at Moffitt?
A doctor by the name of Zhang, I believe you pronounce it, Z-H-A-N-G.
Okay. And is he, I assume that he's a specialist in genitourinary prostate cancers, like genitourinary cancers like prostate cancer?
Yes, he is, and he also has a research assistant, and unfortunately I do not have his card. Probably didn't give him one, but he has a research assistant who is also a PhD and an MD. So between that and the doctor that I have, oncologist here in Venice, who I think is extremely competent, but Dr. Mon, M-A-U-N, the last time I saw him, or the first time I saw him and I went up to Moffitt, they both were on the same page given the same set of information. The only other thing I'd maybe like to share is when I was first diagnosed, the doctor there put me in hospice telling me I only had 6 months left. I've never have understood why that doctor, the hospital doctor, and the hospice doctor all agreed when here it is, I'm coming up on a year later, I'm still here, and apparently have a decent chance with the Zytiga of beating the cancer back once again.
So who was it? Was it somebody at Florida Cancer Specialist that said that to you, or who was it that told you that you had such a short time to go?
Another doctor at Florida Cancer Specialist, and I was able to switch doctors because at the time she was pregnant and was due to deliver about the time I'd be midway through chemo.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you did. And
did
you do dose? What did you do? 6 sessions of docetaxel?
Right.
Okay. Okay. And how did you deal with that? How was that on your body?
I lost probably about 30. Well, I started out weighing about 185 and pretty physically fit because I went to the gym 3 times a week.
Right.
So my weight dropped down to 151, and I got a lot of excess flesh. So I lost quite a bit of weight, and then, just went through it. Couldn't eat, didn't taste anything.
Right.
I think pretty typical.
The irony is that if you were, I don't know whether you did, but if you were able to maintain even a little bit of exercise, it usually helps most men, even through chemo. There are some doctors that even give people chemo whilst they're walking on a treadmill, believe it or not.
Well, when I could, I walked, I did something similar. I walked up and down in my house.
That's good.
Try and do that 4 or 5 times a day for 5 minutes at a time. Then I just get tired and sit down.
Well, Dr. Steve isn't on our call today, but he actually went out and won a tennis tournament between his 5th and his 6th session of docetaxel. So,
wow.
Everybody's different, but if you can do it, it's it really helps. Steve had Provenge, his first round of Provenge yesterday, and he was feeling pretty fatigued, so I was hoping he might be on, but not. Have the doctors, first of all, are you getting any type of bisphosphonate? Are you getting Xofigo or Zometa?
I get Zometa.
You get
yeah.
Okay.
And I also get Xgeva. So I'm getting hormone therapy. I believe that's what that is.
Well, well, the Zometa is to prevent the cancer going too quickly to your bones. What was the other one you mentioned?
I thought it was Xgeva or something like that.
Xgeva. No, you would either get Xgeva or Zometa. You wouldn't get both.
Okay, well then I know I'm getting 2 different shots.
You're getting Lupron probably, and Xgeva would be my guess.
You know what? I will make it a point to. I meant to do that the other day to find out what the both shots were.
Yeah.
I know during my course of treatment, I also had to get get blood twice, and they never could figure out where it was going. But I did get a total of 4 pints of blood during the time I underwent the chemo.
Yeah, because what happens typically is that your blood marrow function can be impacted. You don't produce as much in terms of white and red and platelets. And for some men, if they drop too low, then they will give you blood. So that's not unusual. It was probably later in your treatment that you got that, would be my guess.
Yeah, you're correct. I think it was between numbers 4 and 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Mel, could it be Zoladex that you're getting instead
You
of?
know what? Let me find out. Sometimes I'm like a deer in a headlight when I'm there, and I've always felt that by just putting my trust, I just do what they tell me. And if they say they're going to give me a shot, I just say okay, and watch them while they do it.
So
but I will find.
That's interesting. I mean, that's a good way. I mean, let's talk to some of the guys on here that have. I think there are guys on here that have done Zytiga and that have had prednisone. When are you scheduled to start your Zytiga, Mel?
I'm waiting to get it in the mail now. Originally, they told me they wanted $2,900 a month.
Right.
For the Zytiga, and it turns out I had money left in a foundation grant. So once they discovered that, they're using those funds, and I should be getting it. Hopefully, it was approved yesterday, so hopefully the next day or so.
Okay. Well, just keep us posted, because there's a way. If you get delayed, just let me know. If the doctor has prescribed the Zytiga and it's in the works, but you get delayed, I may be able to help you out.
I appreciate it. I've already spoken to the people with the pharmacy, and they say that they put the order in. So, but if I do get delayed, I will let you know.
Let me know, because we have some supplies that we receive when this is not strictly legal, but we will dole them out to people that have got a prescription from their doctor, but they're caught up in the administration to get them started. So and I have some Zytiga here unopened. So
okay, I appreciate.
What I do is to kick off this call by asking some of the guys to talk to you about how they manage their doctors, because our experience has generally been that you've got to be proactive and on top of what your doctors are doing. And maybe we can segue from that into Zytiga and prednisone. But anybody like to talk to Mel about what happens when somebody says, "I'm going to give you a shot"? What would some of you guys be doing if somebody says, "I'm going to give you a shot"?
This is Tom Van Zant.
Yeah.
I don't let any doctor, would never let them give me any medication or shots without knowing what they were going to give me first, why they were going to give it, and what other options there were besides that shot or medication, and why they thought this was the best option. If they recommend something, I usually say, well, I'll take that into consideration, and then I might very likely get on this call and ask for people who have experience to give me their experience before I make that decision. You must be your own advocate, especially with this disease. You must look out for yourself, and you must find out all the options, weigh them, and then it's up to you, not your doctor. It's a big onus on you, but you have to decide what's the best course of action. And of course, you do it in conjunction with your doctor. You don't pretend that you're smarter than your doctor, but you make sure you know that what your doctor has taken into consideration. And I've learned things on here, which I bring up to doctors, and they go, "Oh, yeah, well, that is true, yeah. Well, it's true, but they forgot to mention it to me until I brought it up to them, So it's very important to be your own advocate.
Okay. I will.
Anyone else?
Mel, this is Dennis Correa. Very similar situation to yours. I'm 71 and was diagnosed last year just as a result of a routine doctor's visit that I was doing once a year for a physical. Very similar to you, in good health, never had any major problems or anything. But the PSA suddenly jumped from the range of below 4 to, I believe it was about 7 or so. And it went from there to seeing the urologist and getting the biopsy done. And as soon as I had the biopsy done, he on a Friday, I believe it was, he called me on a Saturday with the result, and it was not good. It was definitely the aggressive form with a Gleason score of 9. And so it progressed from there, but I got to reiterate the same that you just heard from the other individuals about being a strong, your own advocate on this. My immediate plan was I need to get a second opinion, and I did so with I'm out in Tucson, Arizona, so I went up to Phoenix, and there's a Mayo Clinic up there. They're pretty good with prostate issues too, so that my first thing is get a second opinion before I did anything. And in the interim period, just try to get as much education as I could about what is the protocol for treatment, such as what I went through with. And what I did was, the next phase was kind of all of these things are kind of going on concurrently, but as soon as it was confirmed by Mayo, they came up with basically the same results. I needed to get an idea of where I wanted to get treated. And did I want to go to a major prostate cancer facility, MD Anderson, or one of the well-known outfits that are out of town, or could I find somebody locally? So I put out a search and talked about every doctor and people I could think of about getting a reference for where I was located in Tucson, who was the best prostate doctor close by. So not just, looking on my own, I looked for lots of feedback from people. I came up with an individual doctor that he was basically the only one. Everybody that I talked to came up with this individual's name. So waited to get an appointment with him for about another month. And when I went in, and I looked at the treatments at the time, everything for my situation, the best was starting with Firmagon instead of Lupron. The Firmagon doesn't give you the boost to your tumor cells that some of the other things do, that the Lupron does supposedly. So I started that day, the first day I saw him, and I had already known, what this stuff was, and what the protocol was. And then we very quickly started on the docetaxel chemo, and I was an 18-week. But all the way through that thing, and the reason I'm still on these calls myself is I know down the road I'm going to be looking at some additional treatment. Presently, I'm still down to less than 1 on my PSA score as a result of the chemo and the ADT, which is now Lupron, which I'm continuing on that. But I have to find out as much as I can about what is going on, what's on the agenda, and what's proven. There's lots of decisions that you have to make about where and who you're going to get your treatment from, and what that treatment should be, for you as an individual, and what your needs are from a lifestyle standpoint, and so forth.
All right. Question for you. Where did you find that you got the best information on the protocols, the options, and what had been discovered about them and their efficacy?
Yeah, probably Rick could tell you more about that. I mean, this website for wasus2.org is where I had started, and then the National Cancer Institute and others. But I'm sure Rick can give you a whole list of those, because I, at the moment, don't have them in front of me. Okay. But that will help you, and I'll tell you, I spent more time and worked harder at that task than I ever did in any job I've ever had. So you'll spend a lot of time at it, is what I found for myself. I just needed to get as much as I could possibly digest. Every once in a while I have to stop because I'd just be overloaded with information.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
So most of the guys on this call are pretty good at knowing where to look for information. If they can't find it, they'll let us know, and then we can guide them to where we know there are sources. The real question is what specific information. So if, for example, you wanted to know, well, what do I expect? What can I expect from Zytiga and prednisone? I would say to you, I think as I did on Inspire, search, go back, use the search function, because there's a lot of people that have spoken about Zytiga and prednisone, and you'll get a lot of first-hand experience right there on the Inspire site. I mean, technically, you know, you can go to Bayer you can go to Johnson & Johnson, or Janssen is the division, and they have a lot of information. I mean, we've got our treasurer, God bless him, Rob Beniscus, who comes on these calls occasionally, is one of their poster boys. He was on Zytiga he got about 4 years out of Zytiga. So, you know, I can easily connect you to him. He's actually going on vacation this week, so when he comes back. But we can direct you. But there are a couple of, it also depends on how knowledgeable you are, because some sites are not suitable because they speak in language that you're not necessarily going to understand to begin with. Anybody like to talk to seeking information for Mel? Well,
yeah, I would. This is Bill Burhans. So Mel, I missed the first part of your discussion of where you're at, but reading between the lines from what everyone's been saying in the past few minutes, are you newly diagnosed? Is that correct?
Yeah, I was diagnosed last March, April, started chemo, went through it from June through September, and then was told in December that the chemo came back. My PSA rose from 0.07 to 4.7 in 3 months.
Okay, so I was also diagnosed with a Gleason 9 tumor about 3.5 going on 4 years ago. And although you've been dealing with the system a little bit longer than I have, what I found really helpful at the beginning of this journey, if you want to call it, was to read a couple of books. So have you gone that route? There are a couple of books that were extremely helpful to me when I first became a prostate cancer patient. And one of them was by an oncologist at Johns Hopkins named Patrick Walsh. I don't know if that book has been updated. There's a lot of new stuff in that has new information that's been developed in the 3.5 years since I was diagnosed, and hopefully there's a new edition of his book. But if you're interested,
I believe there's a third edition.
There's a third edition? Okay. I would highly recommend that you read that book to get a broad overview of what you need to do to make things work the very best that they can for you.
Does he have one book?
If you need help tracking down that book, I can help you.
I second that, by the way. It's a great book.
Do you remember the name?
So, if you're interested, are you interested?
Yeah. Hold on, let me look it up here. Right.
it's called, hold on.
Okay.
It's called
a guide to surviving cancer by
surviving prostate cancer. It's called, the name of the book is Guide to Surviving Prostate Cancer.
And it is I have the third edition, which I believe is the latest one. I got it on Kindle from Amazon, but before that I checked it out from the library. It's in all the libraries around here, so I'm assuming it'll be down there. You know, being a retirement community like Venice, St. Pete, these areas, they probably have prostate books in the library.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dr. Walsh is a surgeon. He was the first surgeon to do nerve-sparing surgery, I believe.
That's correct.
So,
can I make a comment about that Patrick Walsh book?
Sure.
Someone was nice enough to purchase that and give it to me after I was diagnosed, but I think you need to give a little warning. It's an excellent book, and nothing against the book, but one thing to a newly diagnosed patient, especially somebody who just went through chemo, what you're going to find is you're only interested in the last 1 or 2 chapters. And that did a little mental damage to me when I got that book, and I started looking through and went, no, this doesn't apply, you know. And that doesn't mean that you have a limited amount of time to live. It just means that that's the way it is, that's where you are, and just be aware of that going into that book. But the only application to somebody in 4th stage is the last couple chapters of the book, other than if you just want to read general information about prostate cancer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I appreciate you letting me know it's in the library and it's only the last 2 chapters. I'll either find it or buy a used paperback edition.
yeah, I mean, in the same light, there's a very good book by Mark Schultz and Ralph Bloom called Invasion of the Prostate Snatchers. But again, it's really, there's probably more in that or as much in that as Walsh's book. It's easy to read. But it's really only the last 2 or 3 chapters, I think, in that book that are going to be pertinent to you. So, you know, that's another thing. What I will also do is I'll send you afterwards links to a couple of pamphlets that are put out by UCSF that are very helpful. And I'll send you the one general one, which probably in 30 pages or 40 pages will give you as much information as much of Walsh's book. And I'll also send you one on hormone therapy because you're going to be on that for a good while.
Thank you.
But,
I appreciate it.
You know, that's sort of what's going to give you a general education. Just to move this along, who's on the call that's done Zytiga and prednisone? Do we have anyone today that's
Rick, it's Jim Harrington. Yeah, I'm on Zytiga and prednisone. I've been on it about 6 months. I failed Xtandi, but so far I'm doing okay with the Zytiga. I mean, in terms of taking this stuff and putting the cost aside for the moment, and I don't find any problems with this stuff. I don't find any problems with the prednisone. It's 5 milligrams. It isn't very much. I usually take it in the morning, and the Zytiga is easy. I get it once a month. I get a bottle of these pills, take 4 a day. It's very similar to Xtandi, and actually there's really virtually no side effects that I can tell. I mean, there's always something, I suppose, but nothing that I've found, and so far it is holding my PSA steady at about 0.8, which was good because it was really kind of going up. So I think so far it's been a fine drug for me. So I'd say, sure, go ahead. I mean, it's about $8,500 a month. I mean, I know it varies depending where you get it, but if you can get it, and I mean, people do get it without paying for it and so forth. But so far, I've got to give a nod of real approval to Zytiga.
Wow, thank you. That's really great to hear. That's really great to hear.
Yeah, my name is Jim, and I'm always happy to help you out. But I mean, I take the Zytiga. I mean, I even take it at night. There's this thing about when you take it versus when you eat food. You have to take it 2 hours after you've eaten, and then don't eat for another hour afterward. And there are reasons for that. But whether that's important right now, it seems to work. Fine with me.
That's really great news. By the way, I found out that Johnson & Johnson, I don't know what your income level is like. I live on Social Security. But they said that once you go past 3% of your gross income, that they are open to providing it at no cost or substantially reduced cost. And I don't know if you've looked out at.
Well, I think I can answer. I've heard of these. We have one guy in us too who does not pay for it. He's worse off than I am. I guess the reason I don't, and I'm fortunate, and others on the call have this too, is that I'm fully employed by the state of New Jersey, and I'm treated at the Cancer Institute, and they pay for it. I didn't even make a copay without blinking. It's really, I'm blessed in that regard. So I never had to worry about what my income is. I am employed, but I mean, I don't want to lay out $8,500 a month. But so far, I don't pay for it, and I'm sure I will not be charged for it.
Well, since you're so close to New York, I can get it for your wholesale. Down here, it's $2,900.
Yeah, like Richard Foodie, he can do these kinds of things. Yeah, no, I that's my situation, and so far I'm a fan of Zytiga. When this stuff fails, well, let's do something else. You know?
Provenja, I think, is next. But thank you so much.
I've had Provenge, and you know, I guess you do these things because, very simply put, each one of them can extend our life. And if Provenge is 4 or 5 months, let's say, and this is that, that's all I'm looking for. I had really no problems with Provenge. It's an expensive process, about $93,000 or so. I did not pay for that either. So my best of luck to you and whatever happens, but I've had that too.
And
thank you.
I would encourage you to talk to your docs about Provenge as early as you can, because what we do know is that the earlier you get Provenge, the better you are.
Yeah, you're right, Rick.
Okay.
And, you know, there's no reason why you couldn't start Provenge right now. It's not a difficult process, and rather than talk about that today, God willing, when you come on next call, we can spend some time on that, or you know, unless anybody else brings it up. But what we do know, and there's more evidence that's come out even in the last month, that the earlier you use Provenge, the better you are. So with METs, I would encourage you to discuss that with one of the two doctors and lean on them to. I mean, it seems to me that you qualify because your PSA has gone up from 0.07 to over 4 whilst you're on Lupron. So there's no question that you qualify. And I would try and get. If it were me, I would be looking to get it as soon as I could.
Okay, well, okay, I will follow up on that also.
Anybody else would like to say anything to Mel? I'm just sort of keeping my eye on the clock here a little bit, and if not, we'll move along.
I have a quick comment, Rick.
Yeah.
Mel, this is Jake. By the way, my son, his mother and father-in-law live in Venice also, so you may be neighbors. What I wanted to tell you was, you know, whoever told you that you have a limited lifespan, you know, one year, that's total bull. I'm in a similar situation. I have mets to the spine, to the hips, to the pelvis. I've been being treated for 4.5 years so far, and still breathing, still doing okay. So don't pay any attention to when somebody gives you a limited lifespan. It's you know, everybody gets different mileage, but I wouldn't worry too much about that, just to give you a word of encouragement.
Okay, I thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hey, Rick, can I get in a question for Jim?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because Jim, if I recall correctly, you said you're only taking the prednisone once in the morning. Is that right?
And that's right. I mean, you have to take prednisone. My doctor prescribed the one pill. I mean, you could take it at night. I mean, some people seem to be affected by it, but I take it usually before 9. I take the Zytiga at night. That's correct. I just take one pill.
Okay.
I don't have any problem. It doesn't do anything to me. I don't know.
Well, I just started it recently, and I was given the instruction to take the prednisone twice a day, once in the morning and once with breakfast and once with dinner. And I believe that's what the package insert calls for. So just wondering, did your doctor specifically say just take it once?
I guess that's right. I kind of wondered about that because I'd heard this too, and I have an appointment in another couple of weeks. I will ask again, but I really don't have a comment on that. I just take this one, but I've heard of what you've said. As far as I'm concerned, if I take this one, doesn't do anything to me, I take two, and I also take metformin. I was starting to lose weight, and my my oncologist was saying, "Hey, be careful with this stuff." But I said, "Phooey, my PSA is staying down." And you know, Steve says it may be anecdotal, but I'm taking. So I take 2 or 3 metformin a day, and again, I don't see an effect. It's an appetite suppressant, absolutely. Doesn't always work, but I guess we'd have to say Snuffy Myers is right about that, and he prescribes it a lot. It's a very cheap drug, and whether it's doing anything for me or not, but I like the appetite suppressant part because Lupon puts it on and metformin takes it off, and it really does work.
Nice balance.
Only one prednisone. No, I don't know why they said that.
I think some docs are concerned either about metabolic syndrome with the prednisone or immunosuppression. Both
yeah, that may be. I mean, I don't mean to be dismissive of this. It's just what I'm doing and what they gave me to do. And my doctor is at the Cancer Institute here in New Jersey. He is the lead doctor and researcher for prostate cancer.
So, okay.
That doesn't mean I agree with you. You got to watch your doctor, you know. I mean, for example, I asked for the metformin. He said, "Oh, I guess so." I'll go, "Yeah, it's all right, fine. Go ahead and do it. And then take a baby aspirin with it." And so I do that, too. I don't know. I mean, what's the harm in taking a baby aspirin? I know others who take it, metformin, but so I guess it's always a little different. But I might check based on what you're telling me.
Okay, thank you.
Mel,
you're welcome.
This discussion, Mel, about metformin and statins, I mean, there's been a fair amount of research on the appropriateness of adding a statin and metformin, which is, it's a diabetes drug, but what it does is it reduces the amount of glucose in your body. And these are fairly benign drugs, and again, you might want to discuss both a statin and metformin with your doctor. Some of the doctors are not inclined to do it. We have a lot of information we can provide you with ammunition if you get pushback. But what I'd also encourage you to do is to go to our website or to our YouTube channel and to listen to some of the discussions we've had about metformin and statins, so you can hear the back and forth and what some of the fellows here think about it. We don't have time to open that up today, but certainly to discuss statins and metformin as part of your overall protocol, it would serve you well with your doctors.
Okay.
I'm going to move along at this point. We've got some people that have joined us, so let me just again run down who I know, and then who I miss can shout out their names. Peter Kafka, Jake Hannum, John Shane, Bill Franklin, Mel Smoke, Tom Van Zandt, Dennis Correa, Jim Harrington, Marty Rodder, Frank Kelly, Bill Burhans, Paul Hobson, Len Sierra, Paul Frieda. Is there anybody I've missed? No? Okay. I know there are some people that are on the phone. If you're not comfortable, please feel telling us who you are. Please feel free to listen in as long as you would like. We always welcome that. And if and when you are comfortable, then you'll tell us who you are, and feel free to jump in at any time. I'm going to ask Professor Bill to spend about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, no more, talking to us about diet and ketones, and then we'll touch base with a couple of guys who are we haven't heard from in a while, and then I will run down and see who's got questions. So that's the plan for the next few minutes. Bill, Bill, first of all, you know, we all offer our condolences to you on the loss of your sister. We're so sorry. And as
Thanks,
always,
Rick.
great to hear your voice. So I'm turning over to you.
Okay, so about 6 months ago, I think some of you who were on this call might remember that we talked about a fellow named Walter Longo, who's a researcher at USC, and he's looking at the effects of diet, specifically on the efficacy of chemotherapy. And the basic idea that he has is that if you reduce your caloric consumption, that it might push normal cells into a protected state. And so I think we discussed this, and there was some confusion because some of his later work didn't match my recollection of what he had been doing earlier. So I should say that Walter is a one-time collaborator of mine, and also that this is questions about diet and especially about glucose and its effect on cancer cells is something that I've been working on in my laboratory for a number of years. So, so I guess there are 3 points I'd like to make. The first is that back 6 months or a year ago when we talked about Walter, I mentioned these studies, but and I think I said that they hopefully had gone into clinical, some of his ideas were being tested in clinical trials. And it turns out that they have gone into clinical trials, and the first clinical trial study was published in October. So this is a study that looked at the effects of reduced caloric intake on the efficacy of chemotherapy, and they looked at 2 different time points, and what they found was that indeed short-term fasting, so by that I mean reducing calorie consumption for a period of 48 to 72 hours before a dose of chemotherapy will improve efficacy pretty dramatically, actually, when you compare the 72-hour time point to the 48-hour time point. And what they did not do in this study was compare either of those time points to a control set of individuals who did not reduce their caloric consumption. But the difference between the 72-hour cohort and the 48-hour cohort clearly suggested that Walter's hypothesis is correct. So this has, I think, really important implications for any of us that are headed into chemotherapy. And I don't think that it's time to try these ideas out yet until there are more studies, and particularly a study that looks at the effect of reduced caloric consumption compared to normal controls who did not reduce their caloric consumption. But the fact is, I know that I've heard anecdotally that there are a number of prostate cancer patients and patients with other types of cancer who have actually tested this idea on their own, and the anecdotal evidence is that it really does work. So, you know, basically Walter's idea is that by reducing caloric consumption, you drive normal cells that you don't want to be injured by chemotherapy, because that's where all the side effects come in, into a protected state by elevating their stress defenses. And in fact, I think that part of his idea is wrong. Our studies suggests that instead what it does is stop normal cells from cycling, but not tumor cells. So normal cells will continue to go through the cell cycle. They divide and replicate their DNA. And that's where a lot of the side effects from chemotherapeutic drugs come into the picture. So short-term starvation or fasting will drive those cells into a quiescent state in our experiments anyway, that is protective. So I think, you know, I thought that I would mention this because I think it's really exciting, and it might, you know, at some point in the future, hopefully the short-term future, this will become a way to both, you know, make it easier to take chemotherapy, to be treated with chemotherapeutic drugs, and it also might make it possible to increase the dose of those drugs so that you can get, you know, a more of an effect on killing tumor cells. So there's that. And then another discussion that we had more recently, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, maybe less, was about ketones. And somebody in our group mentioned that they had read that consuming ketones would also have a protective effect on normal cells and would improve the efficacy of chemotherapy. And I think at the time I said that it sounded interesting, but I couldn't imagine how that would work, and I suggested that it would be dangerous for anyone to try that approach. But then when we finished that call, shortly after, I began to research the literature to see if there was anything to that story. And it turns out there is quite a bit. So ketones are substances that are produced when one reduces caloric intake. They're also produced when in diabetics who aren't able to metabolize glucose. And in that case, they produce a huge amount of ketones, and it's very harmful. But the studies that I came across after we had this discussion indicate that much lower levels of ketones can have beneficial effects. First, in vitro studies that looked at the effect of ketones on the survival of tumor cells versus normal cells treated with chemotherapeutic agents in the test tube. And ketones clearly have a protective effect. And the reason why is almost certainly because tumor cells, for one reason or another, do not metabolize ketones, but normal cells do. And sorry, I got that backwards. Tumor cells will metabolize them and use them as a source of energy, and therefore keep dividing, and that makes them sensitive to chemotherapeutic agents, many of which are designed to selectively kill dividing cells. And normal cells, not cells that are not tumor cells, do not metabolize ketones, and therefore they're protected. And so there now have been a couple of studies that show that in the test tube this works exceptionally well. And one of these studies combined the application of ketones in the test tube with hyperbaric oxygen treatment, and that potentiated the effect. So hyperbaric oxygen treatment is something that we've also talked about in the past. So these are things that are, you know, worth keeping in mind for the future. I don't think that, you know, ketones can be purchased at health food stores, and you know, it's possible to consume them at much lower rates than than the levels that are produced in diabetics, for instance, where they become very harmful. I wouldn't recommend that you do that, at least not without first talking to your doctor, but you know, hopefully there will be more studies coming down the pike in the future that will make it, you know, solidify these findings to the point where it will be possible to take advantage of these earlier studies. So that's all I had to say, Rick, about that subject.
Well,
if anybody has any questions,
yeah,
let me know.
I mean, thank you so much. I mean, it's for me personally, it's clarified a lot of information. Really, really helpful, and it will be recorded in the archive, so we can go back and listen to this again. Thank you so much. Questions? Anybody? Frank Kelly, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I did a little bit of homework, not as much as Bill has. I'm a very skinny guy to begin with, don't have any excess fat. I lose weight on chemo. It was decided that, according to my oncologist, we talked a little bit about it, and he said it could be dangerous for you because it may take too much more weight off of you, and your blood sugar level is just about perfect. It's low, but it's within range. My question being is that my oncologist didn't think it was appropriate for me because of my weight problems to begin with.
I think that I would go with your oncologist's recommendation, but I will say that the clinical trial that looked at the effects of short-term fasting in cancer patients found that there was no weight loss associated with you know, reducing caloric consumption to 200 calories or less over a period of 48 to 72 hours. So, you know, I think in the final analysis you're not going to worry about it, but since there's, you know, not very much known about these things yet, I would follow your oncologist's recommendation and not try this.
Yeah, I mean, and I think as Professor Bill said, if it's something that you think you might want to introduce into your regime, check it out with your medical team. I mean, we always say that. We don't give medical advice. We just give you suggestions that you can speak about with your medical team. So for some people, like for Frank, it may just not be suitable. Anybody else have a question for Bill?
Paul Hobson here.
Go ahead.
Okay. Paul Hobson here. I spoke to my medical oncologist about it, and his view was quite often with the things I bring up, it, you know, mightn't do any good, it mightn't do any harm. If you want to do it, go and do it. So in my last lots of chemotherapy, I was on a restricted calorie diet. One of the longer users was 600 calories a day, and I did that for 5 days round the chemo. Didn't really have any, it's hard to tell whether it had any effect at all, but I managed it quite easily.
Okay, that's interesting. I think I respect your courage on going ahead and trying these things. I mean, I agree with your oncologist that it's not likely to be harmful. But, you know, that was your experience there. You know, I've heard anecdotally about a number of other cancer patients who have tried it similarly and appear to, you know, this is anecdotal evidence. It's not carefully measured in a scientific way, but they feel as if the effects of chemotherapy are easier to tolerate after when they fasted before being dosed than was the case when they were not fasting.
Anyone else like to ask a question?
You know, I just got something to throw in. I was reading some study that wasn't about ketones necessarily, but they were doing experiments on mice and starving them, and with implanted cancer or whatever they were working with, and they found that the starving effect really did starve and kill the cancer cells. The problem is, the bottom line was, how do you apply that to humans, because you can't necessarily starve humans. But that's what you're kind of doing by taking away all the caloric intake, is trying to starve parts of your body, and that's supposed to be helpful. I find it's a little tough to accept when I can't keep the weight on to begin with, because I definitely don't want to be starving myself.
Yeah, the ketone approach, though, is, you know, designed to get around that problem. In the case of, you know, adding ketones to your diet, hypothetically anyway, at this point, it would allow you to continue to consume your normal calories at your normal rate. But once again, you know, especially for anyone who, you know, has trouble keeping weight on, I would definitely think very carefully about going forward with this approach.
Anyone else like to ask Bill a question?
I do, Rick.
Go ahead.
This is Jake. Thank you very much for the presentation, Bill. That was very interesting, very informative. You mentioned specifically chemotherapy and the effect of the ketones on chemotherapy. Would there be a similar benefit to people on Lupron or on Standy or enzalutamide? Or is it just specific to chemo?
No, I think it would be specific for chemo, because most chemo drugs are designed to attack cells that are rapidly cycling, which is the case for, you know, for tumor cells. Let me think about this for a few milliseconds. In the case of hormone therapy, you know, the mechanism by which hormone therapy kills cells is quite different. And I don't think that it would work, but I'm not sure about that. So I'm going to dig a little deeper and see if that's the case. But in any case, I mean, you're taking you know, when you are being treated with Lupron, it's constantly, your body is constantly being exposed to the Lupron. So there isn't, you know, that short window of time where you're being treated with cisplatin, for example, where you could go through short-term starvation before the treatment. So for that reason, I think it would be impractical.
Okay. Well, thank you. I didn't mean to give you homework there, sir.
I'm sorry?
I didn't mean to give you extra homework.
Oh yeah, no, that's all right. This is what I do for a living, so.
Okay. Well, thanks.
And so I really, this really, I want, you know, everybody to understand that I'm talking about this. I'm bringing these subjects up as, you know, things that are potentially coming down the pike and that I think are pretty exciting. And so, you know, I hope that they, you know, provide some degree of hope and excitement, you know, for the rest of you who, like me, are, you know, in this boat. But I'm not telling you these things because I think that you should start doing, you know, start following these protocols.
So, Bill, here's a question for you, which is that I don't think in your treatment to date you've done chemotherapy yet. Is that right?
That's correct.
If you were to do chemotherapy, do you think you would starve yourself, or you'd take ketones for a couple of days before you did?
I'm not going to take ketones, but I am going to do short-term fasting. Okay. I'm going to reduce my caloric intake to 200 calories per day.
Okay. All right. Well, you heard that, guys, from the horse's mouth, so to speak. We're going to move along because I just want to be sure we've got enough time to speak to everybody. But if any of you have more questions for Bill, while I don't want to speak for him, I feel very comfortable that he would be more than happy to field your questions if you let me have them, or if you let me know, I'll put you in touch with Bill. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm fine with that.
thank you. What I want to do now is I'm going to just run down here the list, and some people I'm going to check if they have questions, and some people I'm just going to ask them if they'll update us on their situation. So Peter, do you have anything for today?
No, I'll pass today.
Thanks. Jake, do you have anything for today?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a comment on the effect of efficacy of anti-androgen withdrawal.
Okay.
How well it's working for me.
Okay. John Shane, would you mind giving us a quick update in a couple of minutes after we've been through everybody?
Yep.
Thank you. Bill Franklin, anything for you?
I'll hold off. I haven't got the results back from my bone density test, so
okay.
I'll wait.
And we need you because Marty Rodda has a question, and you're going to be one of the people that will be able to address his question. So we'll get to his question relatively quickly. Mel Smoke, I'm going to pass over you since we spent some time. Tom Van Zandt, anything for you?
No, I went on Zytiga about 4 months ago, and it's working really well for me, and I have no complaints.
Okay. So there's another guy, Mel, who's doing Zytiga, and again, if you would like to talk to Tom, I can connect the two of you later. Dennis Correa, anything for you?
That would be good.
Nothing new for me.
Okay. Jim Harrington, anything for you?
Rick, no, nothing for me tonight. I'll pass.
Okay. Marty, I have your question, and we'll kick off with that question. Frank, anything for you?
No, I think Bill covered anything that I cared to talk about, so I'm good.
Okay. Bill, anything for you? Can you give us an update on where you are and your situation?
Okay, so
not right now. I'll come into you. I'll come back to you if I may.
Sure. Okay. Sorry.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Paul Hobson, again, if I could ask you to update us, is that okay by you?
Yes, certainly.
Thanks.
Now or later.
Later. I'll come back to you. Len, is there anything for you?
No, thanks, Rick.
Okay. And Paul Frieda, anything for you?
Nope, good tonight.
And have I missed anybody, or is there anybody that would like to speak up or has a question? Okay. So let's, as I promised, if you do let me know ahead of time, then I will elevate you to the #1 spot. So Marty Rodda is about to start salvage radiation and wrote me and said, could we discuss what to expect with salvage radiation? So Marty, just fill the guys in on your situation and then ask your question. And there are a couple of guys I know that have been through either adjuvant or salvage radiation.
Okay, I'm 70 years old, had radical prostatectomy in August of 2014. PSA was 6.9. Everything was undetectable for about 17 months, and then it PSA began rising. It peaked at 0.3. I started Lupron in October and getting ready to have IMRT at 39 weeks, probably starting next week. I did have the scan with the C11 acetate with Dr. Almeida in June. Nothing showed up there. No reason to believe that there's anything else, but I also had the 3T MRI that didn't really show anything. So that's basically where I'm at, and I was looking to get some wisdom about any do's and don'ts, any tips about diet or tricks that the doc doesn't tell you to get through this with minimal side effects.
Let's kick off with Peter, because he's an expert on this one.
Where did you say, Marty, you were getting yours done?
When?
Where?
I didn't. At Emory St. Joseph's in Atlanta by a guy who does like 90% prostate radiation, a guy named Peter Rossi. He was involved in the Acumen research also.
Okay, that's good, because you want someone with experience, and you want to make sure that the techs who actually do run the machines are pretty savvy with how they do it. And it sounds like if they do 90%, you're in good hands. Going back to what Bill mentioned, I've known a number of people that did small fasting before radiation. I'm not sure if it was done to make it more effective, but to make themselves more comfortable anyway. You want to keep your not only your caloric intake, but your food intake down to a minimum, because you'll get rather uncomfortable with daily radiation. It does a number on your gut. At least with me anyway, it messed things around pretty good. During it, particularly during the beginning stages, about week 3, week 4, week 5, was pretty uncomfortable. They'll probably have you drink quite a bit of water ahead of time. If you're going to have to commute, one of the easiest things to do is go early and then just hang out someplace where you're comfortable and drink your water before you go in. But you don't want to be caught in traffic or someplace like that with a full bladder for the radiation and no way to empty it. So you just kind of figure out a game plan, how far you have to go and what time you have to be there and so forth, and make sure you're as comfortable as possible. There's some side effects to it afterwards. I have a buddy that went through it at UCSF that I met in the waiting room when I went through mine, and he ended up with some bone problems in his lower spine, some small hairline fractures that he thinks were related to the weakening of the bones and so forth. So I'm assuming you're on some kind of bone strengthening protocol, either Zometa or or something like that.
No, I am not. Nobody talked about that.
Do you see an oncologist?
Yes.
You might want to talk to your oncologist about that. Have you been because you've started Lupron and so forth. You weren't on Lupron before this, though, right?
No,
you just started.
Yeah, in October.
Yeah.
So
well,
may I just jump in? Can I just jump in for a second? I think, Marty, what you probably should do is ask your oncologist to do a bone density test, since you're likely to be on long-term Lupron. And they should have a baseline bone density test done, since you don't have any identifiable METs. Unless you've got low bone density, which is what happened to me, they're not going to give you Xgeva or Zometa. If you were to have low bone density right now, they might want to give you Xgeva or Zometa. Go ahead, Peter.
Okay.
Yeah, just be careful, because radiation does affect the bone to some degree. Anyway, you should do fine. It's pretty simple thing. The main things I was careful is to make sure you've got a good recent vintage machine and techs that really seem to know what they're doing. And obviously you said the doc is well versed in it, so you should be fine. But just be careful. You have a different diet than you're used to, and ask about that. Ask for. I think Rick's probably got it online on our website, but there's a specific diet that you want to use going through radiation, It's not just a cancer diet.
Right. In fact, most nutritionists will tell you that it's almost the opposite of a cancer diet, to cut out the fiber and to eat white stuff, white bread, and white pasta and easy to digest stuff just during the time that you're doing the radiation. The other thing is it's a good idea to try and exercise. Get in at least a 15 or 20-minute walk every day. That's going to make you feel better. Bill Franklin, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, Peter Peter covered a lot of the same things that I went through. My PSA came back very shortly after surgery. From what you said, yours was about a year and a half, I guess, right?
Right.
But yeah, so I don't know if mine was salvage or adjuvant, you know, whatever you want to call it. They did it because of the PSA recurrence anyway. But yeah, I had some issues too. We've had guys on here say they did. I think you said 39. You said 39 weeks. I think you meant 39 sessions. So
right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes.
If you're gonna do 39 weeks, then I mean, I feel for you, man. I do. No, but yeah, I actually did 39 myself, and originally I was supposed to do 36, and I got to a point where he said he added 3 more. So you know, they might adjust yours, give you less, give you a little bit more. It just depends. But like Peter said, the full bladder protocol, where you got to go in there with at least 350 cc's of water in your bladder. I don't know about you, but it was challenging for me. So I had a 25-minute drive, so I was good. I didn't start my water. They said 2 hours before, right? I didn't do that. I got up in the morning and drank 20 ounces of water first thing in the morning, and that kind of kickstarts your bladder. So you know, my bladder was ready to go, and I actually got in the car with a 20-ounce bottle of water. You know, that 25-30-minute commute. I drank that water in the first 5-10 minutes of the drive, and by the time I got to the place, I was ready to go. So,
that's good advice.
They measure the amount of liquid in your bladder with the machine at the same time that you're getting the treatment. So they'll tell you if they don't think you have enough. And I saw guys come out and they had to drink more water. They made them wait. Or they'll tell you afterwards that, yeah, you probably need a little bit more next time. Yeah, stick to the diet that they give you, because if you get off it and the radiation does do anything to your intestines or colon or rectum, it makes it much worse. I had radiation proctitis, which was not pleasant at all, but it cleared up as they said it would. And I wouldn't wish it on anybody. So just follow their instructions is the best I can say. And like Rick said, yeah, try to keep exercising. I was really adamant about going out and walking every morning and every night. My wife would walk me at night, but there were days where I didn't want to get up and do it. But my wife, grabbed me by the neck and pulled me out the door. So if you got a support group like that, then use it.
Yes, I do. And I've been exercising since I exercised more, but gotten more religion about it after I started the Lupron, and I've actually lost 3 pounds.
Fantastic.
Since I've been on Lupron.
Good.
Excellent. Anybody else want to chip in with any other tips or words of advice for Marty before we move on?
I'll just say that this is Bill Bergmans. I worked really hard to fill my bladder, but I was definitely afraid that I'd lose it and pee on the machine, because I work where I'm being treated. And these machines cost millions of dollars, and I was mentally calculating how many years they'd be taking out of my paycheck if I did all over this thing.
Jim Harrington, did you want to say something?
Oh, yeah, just something simple, something no one mentioned, but I had it. And unfortunately, I wish you the best, because it didn't help me at all. Radiation, as my oncologist said, doesn't look like that's a good thing for you, Jim. But what happened to me is, no, the radiation was fine, going through was fine, but they did not give me the water. They did not, and I think that was a big mistake. But what happened was, in time, it really caused problems with incontinence. So often Rick refers people to me with respect to incontinence. Now, I don't want to put you in a dark mood here, but it certainly, I mean, if you look where you're radiating and you think, and it's a problem. It smacks right into your ureters. So I would just say, not much you can do about this, but I think the drinking water, my radiologist did not suggest it, and I'm still mad at that. I had no idea about that. It might have helped and minimized the amount of damage I had in that area, and which led to some severe incontinence and ultimately to my surgery to have the artificial urinary sphincter put in, which works well. But, I mean, yes, it does. But I just saying it's, I mean, what are you going to do about it? I just hope that, as I've been over the years and looked at people with salvage radiation, my overall look at this thing is it can work, but it doesn't work that long. It comes back, your cancer, in some time. But I wish you the very best. I wish I hadn't done it, but that's just me. You know, don't worry about it. It just didn't help me. That's why I said that. That's all I have to add.
Okay. Rick, if I can, Rick, one question I did have. They've talked about diet, and they've told me that and they gave me a list of foods to avoid, both for because of gas and because of high fiber. But what I understood, and I do need to recheck this, they were saying that that after the treatment, like if I did the treatment in the morning, at lunch I could eat some of those foods in moderation. They really didn't. I asked them about the white stuff, so to speak, and they really didn't say that I should do that. Maybe I need to push some more.
Yeah, this is Bill again. The nutritionist at my radiation oncologist said that list they gave me, those were off limits during the duration of radiation treatment.
Okay.
She said, yeah, don't go out and have chili on a Friday afternoon after the treatment thinking you'll be okay by Monday morning. She said, just forget about it until after you're done with the radiation.
Okay, that's good information. I may do that regardless of what they tell me.
Peter, you agree?
I agree. I think you'll very quickly figure out your way around food. I think you're going to have to probably be pretty cautious. Some people claim it doesn't affect them at all, but for me, it was a big issue. You know, I think I figured out where every bathroom was in San Francisco, on every subway line and every BART line, and where I could safely go. So just be careful.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
We're going to move along, and I want to stop off with John Shane. And John, I think what you don't know is that one of Professor Bill Burhan's areas of research for many years has been around the BRCA2 pathways, and Bill is BRCA positive and has gotten a very good response from olaparib. And I know that you have been on olaparib for quite a while, so we actually have a scientific expert on why olaparib works or doesn't work. So I want to maybe ask you if you'll update us on how you are, where you are, and if you've got any specific questions for Bill. I'm sure he'd be very happy to field them.
Well, I've been talking to Bill over the last 5 or 6 months, I guess. I was on I'm 50. I was diagnosed 3 years ago. I'm 55 years old, and I don't have a Gleason score because I never had to have. They never found the prostate cancer in my prostate. It's in my back, my hips, lymph nodes. So I've done all the androgen stuff, Zytiga and prednisone, and I did a cabazitaxel chemotherapy, and now I was in a clinical trial at the beginning of this year with olaparib, which is this BRCA2 PARP inhibitor, at a very low dosage with another combination drug at Sloan, and it worked for about 6 months, and then I got my lymph nodes started to grow again in my stomach, and my abdomen and my back started to flare up, my bones. So they put me on a chemotherapy, another chemotherapy, cisplatin etiposide, for 5 cycles, which was pretty rough stuff. And I lost a lot of weight, and then I came off that at the end of November, and it didn't work. The lymph nodes continued to grow in my abdomens, and my bone mets kind of were stable, but nothing diminished. So Bill's my inspiration because I'm now getting permission from my doctor to go on olaparib at a higher dosage. In the clinical trial, I was only on 200 milligrams. I'm going to go on the maximum dosage of 800 milligrams that Bill was on. So he seems to be doing well, which is my inspiration, and he's been very supportive. And unfortunately, I had some pain in my back from the disease, and I had to have radiation on my lumbar spine for the last 10 days to just basically kind of zap some of the disease out because it was affecting a nerve that was causing me not to have any feeling in my left leg. I thought it was neuropathy from the chemotherapy, but it wasn't. So it's kind of like whack-a-mole, this whole thing, and I'm just blessed that I'm on this, to be able to get this drug. It's not approved for men, and it's a compassion drug, and it's very expensive, but I was able to get it through my insurance, or they worked it out, and I'll start that Monday. I just finished up radiation today. It was my last day of radiation. It just wasn't really anything except just zapping my back for a few minutes the last 10 days. So I don't know. They say that it takes a while for it to kick in, the doctor said, but I'm just optimistic that the olaparib is going to the higher dosage is going to knock this stuff down and follow in the suit of Bill, and if not, I'm just living every day the best I can and just trying to figure out what I want to do with work and how I can make the world a little bit better. It's all, it's, you guys are all journeymen, and we just have to kind of figure it out. I know there's all these solutions and next new drugs out there, but you got to live your life too, and not forget, that you don't want to define this just being cancer, but you got a life to live, and try to stay positive and make a difference in the world somewhere else, and just focusing on yourself all the time. So that's kind of where I am right now, and looking for a good 2017.
Oh, God bless you. Couple of things. I just want to make sure that, I think Patty knows, but we do have this caretaker call now that we run, and I try to put a little plug in every session. But for those of you on the phone who do have caregivers, we have a caregiver session twice a month, and we welcome your caregivers to that session. It's not prostate cancer specific. We tend to have more prostate cancer caregivers on there than anything else, and they find it helpful, and we really welcome the caregivers to come on that call. The
only other thing I wanted to say was the one thing I'm trying to balance right now is I have a fentanyl patch for pain, and I'm trying to back off that because these doctors feel like if you pain, we can ramp it up, and I'm trying to be disciplined to manage that and back off of it, as well as oxycodone when I need it. And I really am trying to be disciplined in the fact that I don't want to be as dependent on it, and kind of be, but the doctors, they're always making sure that you're never in pain, but pain is weakness. Pain is just weakness leaving your body. I'm concerned, but I just don't want to. Because this fentanyl kind of makes you a little. I don't know. Makes you a little out of there sometimes, and so.
So that was. I was going to ask you about that. Did you get a palliative doc on board? Do you have a palliative care doc?
No, My doctor, my oncologist wants to control everything.
Okay. Well, one of the things I'd like you just ask you to do is if you didn't read it already, read the article in the
New York Times.
Yeah. BJ.
It was really impressive. That was inspiring.
I mean, I can only tell you, Eric Bookbinder isn't on the call today, but Eric currently sees BJ. I've known at least 3 guys who have seen him, and they love him as their palliative care doc. They love him because it isn't just pain management. The palliative care docs are really, they really have a holistic approach.
Right.
I mean, Eric says that BJ is better for him than the therapist he sees. He'd rather see BJ than go to the therapist. He gets more out of it. And as did Jerry used to say the same thing. So if you can find a good marriage with a palliative care doc, you're going to get certain things out of that doctor, certain benefits out of that doctor that you probably are not going to get from your med-onc.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah, John, I second that. This is Bill Burhans.
Yeah.
We have a terrific palliative care team at Roswell Park that I've been working with now for about 2.5 years. And, you know, one of the first things they told me was that you will become dependent on some of these drugs. So I'm taking methadone and gabapentin and oxycodone. But they said that's not the same thing as addiction. And at any point, if I wanted to withdraw the drugs, it would be easy. It would have to be a gradual process, but it would be easy. And
that's good to know.
So, you know, I took that to heart. I was very concerned at first about taking these drugs for all the reasons that you are. Right. But they convinced me that I shouldn't be, and I'm really glad that they did. And I second what Rick said about finding a palliative care team to, you know, help you with this particular part of your care. They really do. Yeah. The ones that I have are, I think, one of them in particular is in many ways just like B.J. Miller. And I just love this guy. He has been so incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
And not just for you, because they're also there for your caregivers too.
Yeah.
And
you know,
they will help you, and they'll help Patty find people to talk to. And I mean, they're great. And there are some good people at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and I just would really encourage you to. You're still. Are you going to do the olaparib through Memorial Sloan Kettering, John? So, you know, just think about talking to a palliative care doctor. I can't give you a name offhand. I may be able to. Go ahead.
You know, it's just, you know, when you hear palliative, I mean, I don't know, like you think end of life, you know, like
right.
You think,
so let me.
I'm focused on living here, you know.
So let me address that.
Work. I want to. You know, I'm 55 years old. You know.
I hear you. This is a real semantic problem with the word palliative. And at UCSF, where BJ works, they've changed the name of that department to the Symptom Management Service. It's a palliative care, but it's called symptom management. People are much more willing to go and talk to symptom management than they are to go and talk to a palliative doc, but you're seeing the same guy. Now, I actually participated in a presentation on palliative care not so long ago, and I said, why don't they just get rid of this palliative, because it's too associated with end of life. It isn't end of life. It's really about controlling pain and side effects and symptoms from the treatments that you're on, not just cancer, because you know, you'll be seeing somebody who's only about cancer, but there are palliative care docs that treat other diseases as well. But I think that you'll find that the palliative care team at Sloan Kettering will be great. And you know, I can't tell you the right one, but
I'll do some internets. I'll do some search engines and check it out.
But we're going to stay on top of you on this one and try.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm good.
Bill and I are going to be chasing you. Now.
Thank
you. Yeah, John. Let me just finish by saying that, you know, you are a real inspiration to me because you are so successful at maintaining a normal lifestyle and the very active lifestyle that you're able to
I'm trying
maintain. Yeah, so this is really important, and it's really you know, it makes it a lot easier for people like me to, you know, to stick to that same sort of regimen when we hear
I'll
somebody
endorse
like
that. I'll endorse that. And you know,
Yeah.
we don't see you enough on these calls, but we love to have you here, John. So you're always super welcome.
Thank you very much.
Even if
Great.
do jump all over you for not getting a palliative care doc. Now, I want to move to and it's really a very good segue to go to Paul Hobson at this point in time, because you've just had your spine radiation. And Paul, why don't you chip in with your story?
I've been in hospital for about 3 weeks. What happened was I started feeling weak in the legs and having problem with balance. Turned out to be bones surrounding the spine. It collapsed onto the spinal cord and was getting compression. They operated on me about 3 weeks ago. I'm in here learning how to walk again. Got good leg strength, but the knees are a bit wobbly. They're giving me some radiation to near where the site where they did the operation, just to make sure they've got out all the cancer in the area. I've had 3 treatments out of 5, so I finish that tomorrow. When I finish that, they'll probably send me off to a rehabilitation centre for more physio and just getting back walking and up and going. So that's life at the moment.
What are these treatments you say that you're getting right now, Paul?
External beam radiation to the spine.
Mm-hmm. So, in other words, what the same sort of radiation that John's just completed?
Similar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how are you, when they move you along to this rehab center, how will the physical therapy regime change for you?
Well, I'll have more physiotherapy and more focus on the walking. At the moment in the hospital, the physio is limited to once a day, where it's probably, when I move into rehab, I'll be doing it twice a day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh. Anybody have any questions or anything they want to say to Paul? Well, I do.
I don't.
Go ahead.
Paul, I would say good luck. I hope it continues to work out well for you.
Yeah. Look, thanks very much. I'm getting rather used to the spot on the ceiling of the room after about 3 weeks in the one spot.
Yeah.
As I said before, it is what it is, and one of the good things is that the fact that they feel that they should spend time patching me up means that they think that's worthwhile and don't immediately expect me to shuffle off in a box, which cheers me up a bit.
That's good.
Yes, it should. Yeah, that's great.
Plus the fact that I think we've got a date at a certain Greek restaurant near LAX next September. So, we want you to be there.
We will try is the answer to that one.
Oh, good.
As Chuck Mack says, you don't know when you reach the terminus.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay, thanks, guys. So, Paul, can you walk at all with supports, with crutches, or are you confined to a wheelchair, or what's the situation?
At the moment, I'm walking. When I do walk, I'm walking on a walking frame. I'm sort of, at the moment, probably Probably about 20 metres is the limit at the moment. It's I get out of bed for meals. I walk to a toilet and have my one walk with the physios each day at the moment. I had my neurosurgeon give me his Stephen Hawking speech, which said, you know, you've got a bloke who can only twitch one little finger, and he's, you know, one of the most influential men in the world. He suggested what I could do with a wheelchair or a mobility scooter held unlimited possibilities.
Well, I have to say that if you show up with a mobility scooter, then we may have to have a race with you and Jim Marshall, and you know we'll be laying bets down there on who's going to get around quickest. So all the Aussies, you know, all you Aussies are going to be mowing us down with your mobility scooters there, man.
You have to choose the right colour.
That's right. Right. I think, how about British Racing Green or Ferrari Red? What's your thought?
Something like that.
Anyway, well, Paul, we really hope. How's your house? I mean, when you get back home, are you pretty much on one level, or are you going to have issues?
I'm not certain whether I'll be able to get back home. My wife has Alzheimer's, and yeah, I was previously caring for her. She had to go into a home, and I don't know whether I'm going to be able to get back home on my own. That's all to come.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, keep.
Do you have anybody caring for you, Paul? Helping you?
Thanks very much, guys.
Go ahead.
Do you have anybody helping you?
Do you have anybody helping you, Paul?
Oh, yeah, it's support of all friends and social workers and stuff like that. It's all manageable. I just don't know, how I'm going to end up after the rehab. What functions I'd get back. In some ways, living in a big house on my own, I'd be a bit worried about, falling and all of this type of stuff. I may need some care, being realistic, I think. So it's just taken as it comes at the moment.
Okay. Well, we're going to move along. We wish you the very best, and we'll look forward to hearing you from you next week or the week after. And if there's anything that we can help you with, you'll reach out to us, I'm sure. I still want to touch base quickly with Jake, but I want to go to Bill really quickly. Bill, tell us where you're doing with your olaparib and where your treatment, how your treatment's going.
I had a routine sodium fluoride PET CT scan today, and I'll learn the results on Thursday. But I expect they're going to be pretty good. I don't know if you guys remember the previous scans over the last year have been indicating that the olaparib is causing mets in my spine and in my ribs to just melt away. And so, since the last bone scan, I've been feeling less and less discomfort in my spine. So I expect that I'm going to continue to see good results in this scan.
So
that's great news.
Yeah.
And you're still taking that 800 milligrams of olaparib daily still, Bill?
Is it 800, John?
Yeah.
Or twice daily. So it's 1600. Do you remember?
No, it's 800.
It's 800. Okay, whatever the maximum dose is, that's what I'm taking.
Yeah, 400 in the morning and 400 at night.
Yeah, correct. That's right.
Okay. 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 So as far as you're concerned, that's the treatment that you're sticking with right now. So you're just on your Lupron and your olaparib.
I'm also continuing to take Xtandi.
Oh, and
even though
okay,
we had every indication that it had failed back about a year ago.
Right.
And my oncologists have been telling me that I should just drop it. Excuse me, I'm losing. It's the time of day when I lose my voice.
Okay.
But I'm continuing to take it. It's probably not doing anything, but I'm reluctant to stop it.
And you're not having any fatigue, or you are having fatigue issues? Do you think?
Oh, boy, am I having fatigue issues?
Yeah, you do.
But it's it's funny. You know, I went to Ireland 2 weeks ago.
Right.
For a week, and went hiking with my daughter in the mountains in Wicklow National Park, and the fatigue problem just disappeared.
Wow.
And so I think part of it is just, you know, not having the environment that is conducive for somebody like me who likes the outdoors to you know, get out and be active, which is bad. You know, I'm you know, instead of when I feel sleepy, instead of going and lying on the couch and taking a nap, I think I'm going to try really hard in the future to go take a walk instead. But it is a problem.
Well, you know, that's something that we push here, and we have done for years, that, you know, when you feel really crummy, try and get out and do that 15 minutes, get your heart rate up, and it'll make you feel better. But it's so antithetical that, but try it. Tell us if it works.
Yeah, I have tried it, and it does work.
Okay.
Not all the time, but most of the time. And you know, it's also critical for me to be able to write science papers, especially now because we just finished a couple of projects that need to be written up. So I'm going to work really hard at battling this with that approach.
So is it true that the Guinness is much better in Ireland, Bill?
It is. That is absolutely true. Yeah. I don't know what it is about it, but it tastes much better. I don't. My sense of taste has gone wacky over the last year or so, and I can't taste a lot of things. But boy, I could taste the Guinness. They really tasted good.
That's good. Okay, well, thanks, Bill. Thank you for the update, and, you know, may the force be with you. Let's hope this scan comes back and shows continued reduction, and that the you know, you're tolerating the olaparib well. So
yeah, I'll let you guys know next week.
Thank you. And so let's just finish up with Jake. Jake, you had a question, or you had some comments on stopping anti-androgens as your PSA starts to rise, you know, which we know for some people, by stopping the first line anti-androgen, Casodex usually, that sometimes your PSA can come down. Tell us what's going on. What's your experience?
Well, you're right. They say approximately 30% of the people respond to that particular treatment. I stopped taking the bicalutamide in November, and I had my blood test just the other day. It was 10 in December, and it's 15.5 last Thursday. Mm-hmm. So in my case, it did not have any effect. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, the doctor said, well, I knew it wasn't going to work, but I said, well, I wanted to try it anyway. So I did. It did not work in my case, but, you know, it was certainly something worth trying. So now we're going to the doctor's in the process of trying to get enzalutamide approved and finding me some financial assistance. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm at.
So I'm just making some notes here. When was your when was the 10 measurement?
Okay, in October it was 5.5.
Right.
In December it was 10 point, I wrote it down, 10.4, December 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And then last Thursday, the 5th, it was up to 15.7.
Mm-hmm.
So it did, my doubling rate before that was about a little bit over a month. The bicalutamide may have had an effect on the doubling rate. Now it's 1.68 months,
Mm-hmm.
whereas before it was 1.09. It's not much of a difference, but.
Have you discussed Provenge or not?
No.
If it were me, I would be doing that. I mean, you have the Mets, your PSA's going up. You need to get it earlier rather than later. You know, it's one of those protocols where we don't exactly know what difference it makes, but we're pretty convinced it does make a difference. The 4.5 month figure is not something I would hang my hat on, because the people that got Provenge in that trial were so far along, and it could make a much bigger difference if people got it earlier. And you know, you're eligible and it's covered. So the question is, you know, would you, should you get it now? And I think along with the enzalutamide, if it were me, that's something that I would really want to be talking to my doc about.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind for the next time I visit her. I don't know if she does Provenge herself. I don't know if that might be why she doesn't talk about it. I don't know. We've just never discussed it.
Well, you know, I know your situation, but I do think you need a specialized GU med onc on your team. You know, not necessarily that you have to see them all the time, but she needs to be open enough to work with somebody from one of the institutions around where you live, so that things like that can be discussed between the doctors. But you are a very good candidate for Provenge.
Okay. To be honest, I've been holding out for Prospect, hoping that was going to come due, you know, later on this year.
It may do, but
they're not mutually exclusive. I mean, you can do both.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, I thought it was one or the other.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Not that we know. Not that we know, but you know, the problem is that when you get to a certain tumor burden with the Provenge, and you're not at that level, but when you do, when you get to a certain level of tumor burden, the Provenge is not going to work. And you guys have heard me say this before, but I'm just quoting Larry Fong, who was the PI on the principal investigator on Provenge, on Tipilusul T, who says it needs a landing strip. That's what he calls it. It's got to have a decent sized landing strip. If the landing strip is too short, then it's not going to work.
Didn't we talk once before about the threshold of about 20? Anything less than 20 is when you should do it. I think Steve said that.
Was it 20 or was it 30? You know, but I don't think that that's so relevant, because every guy produces a different amount of PSA.
Right.
You know, and so some guys may be high PSA producers. Some guys may not. I mean, what's the highest level of PSA that you've ever been measured at?
After my focal cryotherapy, it took about 1.5 years. I was up to about 25. It was the highest when I started my Lupron.
You know, I mean, that's not a huge number, and your numbers have stayed pretty low for a long time, and you know, you may be a guy that is lower on the scale. So I think that probably 30 is a good rough indicator. But I would do it, and I think I agree with Bill 100% that I've not heard that they're mutually exclusive. And you know, do what you can right now, and when the Prosvac comes out, I mean, everybody and their brother's like going to be looking for Prosvac, and you'll get on that bandwagon too, and hopefully it'll give you some more. But that would be my thoughts right now.
Okay. One other comment. You mentioned before to me about Zometa reducing the frequency you showed me that article from reducing the frequency from once a month to every 3 months.
Yeah.
I did talk to my doctor. She said that she would do whatever I wanted to do. She did not recommend it in my case because she said the kind of cancer that I have in my spine and my hips, she said she recommends doing it once a month. But she would go along with me if I choose, to do it. So I'm going to, for the time, I'm going to stick with the monthly because I don't really have any effects from it. It hasn't really, done anything bad to me, so I figure it's not going to hurt me.
Well, again, this is why I would much rather that you had a genitourinary medical oncologist on your team.
Yeah.
Because I think they're going to be more understanding of the situation. I mean, the other thing is it has such a long half-life that you could stop it and not have any issues. I mean, I'm not telling you to stop it. I'm just telling you the observation that, if you stop Zometa, it's probably not going to make much of a difference if you're off it for 6 months and then you go back on it. But to me, the comment of because of your type of cancer, you've got to stay on it for once a month, I would say, could you please show me the evidence for that? That would be I would go back to her and say, fine, but, where is it that what evidence do you have? Because here's some evidence that 1 month makes no difference to 3 months. That's exactly why they did the study, because there were doctors over-prescribing the Zometa, and it can have side effects in the end. And so they said, well, do you really need it 1 month? And they said, no, this study shows 1 month is the same as 3 months. It makes no difference. So you take it to your medical oncologist, and she says, well, the sort of cancer you have, well, check yourself, look at the study, check yourself and your details against the guys that were in the trial, probably very similar, and then go back to her.
Okay. Like I said, she'll do whatever I tell her I want to do. I asked her opinion. She said she didn't think I was a good candidate, but she said she will certainly do it if I ask her to. So I'll do some more research. Thank you, Rick.
All right, guys. Well, we filled up 2 hours again. This was a very, very good session. I hope that everybody got as much out of it as I did. We'll be meeting again on Monday. Monday is Martin Luther King Day, but it doesn't stop us meeting. So we'll be meeting at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock my time, and I look forward to speaking to you all again at that point. And thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Rick.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Rick, I hope you don't wash away. Thank you. Rick, I hope you don't wash away. I'm looking at the window behind you, and it looks like it's raining extraordinarily hard and windy.
It is. Well, right now was supposed to be when it's like the worst. So we're in for it. We've been having trees coming down. I mean, what I am thankful for is that the power stayed on the whole time. I never thought I should have told Peter to stand by in case our power went off so that he could reconvene the meeting. But thank God we didn't lose power. So yes. But I just came back from the gym. I didn't row on the water today, but I did just come back from the gym. All right. Well, see you soon. Take care. It's great to see you.
Okay.
Oh, let me ask you, have you and John ever seen each other before?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Have you and John Shane ever actually seen each other before?
I think so, but I'm not sure. But we've been communicating extensively by email and texting.
Okay.
And we'll continue to do that.
Fantastic. I love it. Yeah. I love it when that happens. That's the best. Okay, guys. Good night.
All right. Good night.
Thanks, Rick.